It's live right now. Welcome to the Live Lounge. We are here at the LVO, and I am joined with Dan Osborne. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
Mate, I'm doing really well.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. This is it's really exciting. It's awesome to see some folk here too. So, hello.
No, honestly, mate, it was brilliant. I needed a speaker for hobby, and I thought, Dan.
Wow, really? That's very honored. Yeah, thank you.
No, it's a pleasure, mate. Honestly, it's been great to see you at Nova originally. I've walked into some of your workshops, listened to you teach, look at how you've painted models, and we just got on so well. So I knew this would be an easy chat. But Dan, for people that might not know too much what you do, what is it that kind of really got you into the hobby aspect and kind of created this passion to teach in paint the way you do?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think there's different aspects of the hobby itself, right? And I, as a former GW store manager, it's build, paint, play, and collect. But in terms of painting and hobbying, I definitely play the game, but I'm not very competitive. I lose all my games, so I at least want to have a nicely painted army and something that looks good. And it's also, I think the majority of the time that many of us spend in the hobby is painting, right? We're at home. You're not always able to be at a large convention playing games. So it's that preparation. It's that time that you get to unwind, or that just mental release, that creative opportunity. And then you can dive into the storytelling. You can dive into your characters. You can dive into, I like robots, like a lot.
You like robots?
I feel like that kid who's like, I like turtles. Like, I like robots. I like knights. I like titans. And they're so much fun. Like, I've painted probably 100 Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights, and I could paint 100 more and die happy. Like, I love it. It's just, yeah, it's my favorite thing.
See, the thought of painting an Imperial Knight, I'm like, no.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Because you get to do things on such a large canvas that you can't do on a really small one, right? You can do that. You can dive into the heraldry and the symbols and the iconography, and then you can weather them and chip them and corrode them, and you can rip off a Titan's arm, and it could be spouting blood, and you get to do that because it's so big, and you couldn't really do that on like something a bit smaller. You can dive into different aspects.
I'm loving that passion. I'm absolutely loving it. No, that is great. So today I really want to talk about, like you mentioned then, how do we get our armies to looking awesome on the tabletop? Because there's going to be people, watching back home or in the audience or maybe out in their game listening in, and I don't think there's anything more rewarding personally than having just a well-presented, painted army. And it is such, I think, an overwhelming thought to even accomplish. So I want to know the tricks, the tips, how you, make sure you don't burn out from doing that, what little things you put in place to make sure you're done by a deadline. So let's just sort of phrase it first of all. What is a well-presented army for you? Like the minimum?
That's good. That's loaded. That's a loaded question, right? Because I'm going to have a minimum that I'm working towards, and you're going to have your own, and you're going to have your own, and everyone will have their own. So, like, I think we need to find what is our minimum, right?
And how do you do that? How do you define your own minimum?
For me, like, I'm terrible. Like, I lose every game. So I at least want to have a really nicely painted army. So maybe my minimum is a bit higher because I'm still competitive. Like, I want to look good while I'm dying and removing my incredibly painted models, right? So my minimum is a little higher for sure. But I think what you need to do is you do need to have a minimum of where you're going, what you have in mind. So paint that test model. And then how do you work backwards, right? I know that I'm going to be at this event on this day, and I need to work backwards. Right? How long did it take me to do, what units do I need? What list am I going to bring? And then work backwards from there. When I'm building my models, I need to have them prepped and ready to go. What kind of basing am I going to do? Like, how many people have painted their models on the base? Most of us. But have you painted them separately and then glued them on? Because you save an extraordinary amount of time, right? I've done a lot of commission painting and learning how to use the different tools, layering them, putting them together. Again, having that final step in mind, and how do you work backwards from it, right? If I'm going to do something that's heavily weathered, then when I weather it, I know that it's going to be dark. So I need to make it brighter when I'm painting. So then I can pull it back with the weathering, right? With the basing, again, knowing what kind of basing I'm going to do, I can paint the base separate, glue the model on, pin it in, done. Bob's your uncle. It's super, super fast. Like, I did a Salamander army a couple years ago as a commission. It was like 3,000 points. And I got it down where every model, every Marine, was less than 3 minutes, start to finish for the entire model, and it looked amazing. Amazing. I could do more, but that was that minimum for that army, right? It was a very basic, very simple. I did an AdMech army, and AdMech can be a lot of work. So you just have to identify which parts of the models are going to take that work, do that first, right? And then add on the little extra details as you need to.
No, I love that. So do you think then when we're trying to think about what our own personal minimum is, do you think you should first of all understand where your skill set is at and then start to dictate, okay, this is what I could probably achieve? Because I see this a lot when we see, Instagram accounts like yourselves, you look at it and it just makes you feel really sick inside. You're like, I can never paint that good.
Well, don't feel sick. No. Hey, come take a class. Like, ask for help. Like that, I would say, like, I started painting in the mid-90s, right? And at that time, we didn't have the resources we have available. There was no one doing a show like this. There was no one talking about this. I would go to, like, the model railroading show, and I'd be like, oh, hey, what's this? And they'd be like, get out of here, Warhammer kid, right? And we didn't know it was gatekeeping. They were just being rude, right? But no one shared that info, so go get help.
So what I'm saying is, like, when you see, like, the models out there from Golden Demon or your favorite painters, it can be too easy to get sucked in to go, this is what I need to paint like, because we've all got that part inside of us that wants to do that beautifully painted blended model with, non-metallic metal and weathering and all the rest of it. But do you think that for some people can be a barrier to entry?
Absolutely.
And how do we get rid of that so we can, first of all, just have a cool painted army and then build up?
You put Frozen on and you watch it and you sing along, let it go, let it go. You just have to, right? Like, yes, all of us want to be Golden Demon award-winning painters, like myself included. All of us want that. But that's not the goal, right? Our goal is to come play at an event. So make your model look great, but understand that you are at a different level, and that's okay. Work towards that, right? Find that medium. Like, I think really good painters aren't people that don't make mistakes. Really good painters are people that know how to fix their mistakes and know how to mitigate it, and also know what things don't matter, right? For years, I was doing zenithal primes, right? And then I would just paint over with an opaque paint, which would erase all of that work. And I didn't realize I was doing extra work that didn't matter.
Like a process you didn't need, but you've seen other people do it.
And so I kept doing it, not understanding why I was doing that, not understanding the reasons. Like, even a base coat. A base coat doesn't have to be perfectly opaque, super smooth. You're going to paint over it 5 times. If it's rushed and it's splotchy, that's fine. It doesn't matter. I don't need to spend extra minutes on that because my energy is more useful somewhere else. So I'll give you another good example, and it's kind of a joke, but I was talking to another artist, Kaha, who's phenomenal, extraordinary display painting models. And it was kind of a joke. I was telling her, I was like, I have this really great tutorial for painting purity seals. Super fast, it's super easy, it looks great. And it helps me get a better model. And she's like, really, she's, again, multiple Golden Demon winner. She's phenomenal. She's like, what is your process? How did you do that? And I was like, it's really easy. You just cut it off and you don't paint it. Because I'm not going to put energy into something that's not going to help my model. I'm going to put energy into what is going to help it. Why am I going to paint this tiny little thing? I'm going to glue 75 different bags onto my Space Marine who's going to die. I'll put the energy on my character. He gets the purity seals. But the basic bro, he doesn't get that.
You don't get those grenades, does he?
No, because he's going to die. It's okay. Put your energy where it's most useful, right? Put your energy where you're going to get that payoff, where you're going to see the results, right? You get an airbrush. Great. Awesome. You start using it. Now you save time there. But you still have extra time you can use to make your model look better elsewhere. So maybe it's the shoulder pads. You do a little bit of extra work on the shoulder pad because that pops, that stands out. Maybe it's doing an OSL glow. You put a little bit of extra energy in the OSL, the plasma gun, the power sword. That pops in a way that the purity seal in the bag, the ammo pouch, really?
You can't see it anyway, can you?
No, and there's 75 of them. It doesn't matter.
And if you've got edge height, all the little bits of leather and put some little, buckles on, we ain't got time for that.
No time at all.
And it's quite funny actually because when I'm asked, if somebody says, Steve, do you want me to build some models? And I'm like, yeah, but don't put any of that gubbins on it. I don't want any of that.
No.
So helmets or faces, what are you going for?
So I recently took a class with Eric Swinson, and I'm no longer afraid of painting faces. But the same theory applies. If you got 75 Marines, 75 bear helmets is a lot of work. So either A, get really good at painting faces, and you probably will, or mix it up. You know, find with army painting specifically. Like if you're display painting, totally different conversation, right? But if you're army painting, if you're building a whole army for a deadline, for an event, again, find the thing where you get the most bang for your buck, the most energy. Find a method. Oil paints, enamels are incredible to work quickly. Once you know how to use that tool, you can bend it to your will. You can use it to get better looking effects that are super fast. And so like all those Golden Demon winners, all those Instagram accounts, myself included, I'm truly honored, but I think it's a lot of really simple techniques that we have learned. And this real skill is how do you put those techniques together in a way that creates a complex result. Rob Medwell from Medders Miniatures is a fantastic example. He does a bunch of classes and he talks about this. And he and I have a lot of the same theories, and we develop them independently, right? A lot of us do that, where we find these things that we know how to do really well, put the energy where it's going to matter, right? If you pick up my Space Marine and you turn it around and look at the backpack and point to the backpack that I missed a part, like that's the wrong, like don't look there. Like my eyes are up here, buddy. My bolt gun is right here. Look at the bolt gun. That's more important. The plasma gun is so much more exciting than the backpack. Who cares about the backpack? Don't even worry about oh, well, he doesn't have the holster for the gun. Who cares? He just blasted your character and your character's dead and mine's still killing more guys. So whatever the energy, put the energy where it matters the most and just keep going, keep going.
So I got two questions. I'm going to say them both now so I don't forget because I've got a terrible memory. I want to come back to the point you made about failure and mistakes. I want to come back to that because I think that's a really good topic to talk about. Because I think a lot of people are afraid to fail. A lot of people are afraid to make mistakes. Yeah. And I think I see that more and more now in the sort of the world that we live in. There is so much fear of failure. But anyway, I want to come back to that. So what I've actually got a question for you is, should we look at army painting like a project in terms of actually how are we going to manage this project? What preparation and planning should we do? Should we be taking even a minute or two to think about the processes that we're going to put in place?
Vehemently, yes. Please, if I could get all these guys, all these friends out here painting in the tournaments, if we can get them into our classes, like come take a class with myself, come take a class with Byron from Artist Opus, come take a class with some of the people that do army painting. There's a lot of small, quick, easy techniques that we can teach folk that would pop out different parts of their painting, because it is a project, right? Especially with competitive players, this new unit is the thing. You got to use it before the new update comes, you know. So you need to paint 2-3 new units often, right? That happens. And so how can you paint it quickly and make it look really good? And there's a lot of techniques that, like maybe for display painting or not, like dry brushing. There's a way to dry brush quickly and easily, and it looks like you painted quickly and easily, and there's a way to do it where you get a phenomenal result, and it's not very much more time. It's just learning to adjust the way that you apply those techniques, getting the feedback. And I think that's where classes, and I'm obviously biased, I'm an instructor, I teach at Nova, at Adepticon, at LVO, I'm doing my own classes, I'll be in Cardiff, right? Getting that feedback, getting that, like where I'm able to sit with somebody and I'm able to come up and like I can like hold on. I can see how somebody's holding their dry brush and I can adjust, right? I was teaching a class, an airbrush class in Manchester at Element Games, and there's 13 people airbrushing, and I heard across the room one of the airbrushes was making a weird sound, and I went over there and I was able to adjust it instantly. And the person wouldn't have known. They were struggling with whatever thing it is, but getting that feedback to help that process become quicker and easier. Right? Again, it's knowing how to mitigate mistakes. It's not that any of us are a failure or bad at the thing. We just haven't had somebody helping us and supporting us.
Well, it's like with everything that we do. You've always got blinkers on. You don't know what you don't know. And this is where having somebody look over your shoulder, have a bit of coaching, just opens up for you to realize, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. But until you're actually shown or told, that person that you spoke about with the airbrush, they wouldn't have known when you hear that hissing or that spitting noise or even the soothing noise it should make compared to when it doesn't make that noise. You just think it's just blowing air.
Yeah,
you didn't know that there's something wrong, like whatever, there's too much moisture or a clog or whatever. So for me, when I think about army painting, and I've painted a lot now for the studio, I always think about, if I just take 10, 15 minutes with a notebook and I go, right, what colors do I want my army to be? I'm not going to try and do the Howling Griffin quartered. I'm not going to try that.
It's easier than you think, but maybe not. Yeah.
I'm not going to do the, I don't know.
The lightning bolts on your Night Lords. Or,
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about, right, what colors am I going to use? And then what I'm going to do is go, right, I like painting faces. So there's sometimes I feel like there's stages when you're army painting.
Yeah.
So when I'm airbrushing, I don't really want my faces to be constantly sprayed with all the layers.
Of course.
So I keep them off, and I
keep the head off.
I just stick them on a row of sprue. So I get like 20 heads, and I stick them all to a row of sprue. And then when I do my airbrush, I can prime them all, zenithal highlight, contrast wash of flesh, and I'm like, no, it's pretty good.
And shoulder pads are the same. If you're going to do the shoulder pads a certain color, why glue it on? You're just making more work for yourself, right? Again, with the model itself, like, do you paint your bases together with them? Do you glue them together, the model and the base, and then do the basing when you're done?
No, I do separate bases.
Separate bases, because it saves an insane amount of time. You can dry brush that whole base, not have to worry about the feet of the model, not have to worry about the legs.
You don't have to worry about edging it round.
Nothing.
Where you're pushing your bloody,
that saves,
the texture paints.
You save so much time doing that. The texture paints themselves, right? Washing the texture. A lot of people, so I do a lot of nights, right? A lot of Chaos Nights and Imperial Nights. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to rattle can the whole thing silver and then dry brush it and then Nuln Oil the whole thing. And actually, that's a lot more work than planning out the steps of how you're going to paint it, right? You can use dry brushing to create some incredible texture, some incredible depth, and it's faster than spray painting it and then Nuln Oil with 2 bottles, and then you spilled it in your amine.
And you've got to wait for it to dry.
Yeah. Or just using oils, right? In and of itself, oils can save an incredible amount of time, but there's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of myth about, oh my gosh, it'll peel it down to the primer. Yeah, maybe if you're using turpentine, but don't do that. Like, know how to use the thing properly, know how to use the tool, how it can benefit you. In all my classes, I have that approach of like, I'm going to introduce you to something. I'm not telling you it's the best way. I'm not telling you it's the only way. You have to find your style of painting. You have to find your way of doing something and make it work. I love the heavy metal Citadel paint style. It's beautiful. I think all of us would agree, right? It's a stunning. I also have absolutely no will to do edge highlighting like that. None. Zero. I will spend 14 hours doing little chips. I will spend 0 time doing it. It's just not my style. I don't find the enjoyment from it, right? I'm going to look at a project. I'm going to think, how can I paint it as quickly as possible, to the highest degree possible, within that timeline that I feel comfortable? My timeline might be a little bit, my degree might be higher than somebody else's, but still, it's fast. Like, it's really fast. I can paint an Imperial Knight to the level that I do in like less than 20 hours, right? And for some people, that's a whole, it could be a lot longer.
Well, like when you're painting Imperial Knights, that's equivalent of maybe 3-4 units in the game. So you can put more time in.
And I will batch paint them in units. I do 3 nights at a time. Or my last commission was 24 Imperial Knights. And so I did 6 War Dogs at one time, batch painting all of them. I play Titanicus a lot. So at home I have 8 Warhounds for Titanicus, and I'm painting all 8 at one time. But I know the processes, I know the steps, and so I can save time, right? I know that if I do this step first, and then I can cover it with masking, and then I can do these other steps without interrupting the first. And as a whole, I save a lot of time, but also I'm able to increase the quality because I can protect the work without ruining it and going back. I mean, some of this is a little more complex, but really the complexity is the planning. The complexity is knowing how do my paint products work? How can I use them to their best advantage in the quickest way possible? And the only way to do that is to practice and to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and learn how to mitigate those mistakes in the future. Hey, I noticed that when I did this, the paint peeled. Don't do that. Find out something else.
I always think the most successful people are the people that failed the fastest.
Yes, or the most.
Or the most, yeah, because and you should always encourage people to fail.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with it, right?
No.
It's when you're at that point of a little bit of danger, or you're like, oh, should I put this decal on, or should I try and airbrush the eyeballs in? I'm not sure. That is a learning moment, because if everything is so easy and you're avoiding the failure parts, you'll never actually learn to see, okay, don't do that again, Steve. That was really stupid. Like you said about the Xenophore
It wasn't
highlight.
stupid. It wasn't stupid. It's just you didn't know. Right?
Exactly.
And you need to learn from that, and you need to be open. So like in my classes, I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I talk a lot about just education, and I invite and I encourage you to take risks.
Yep.
And I encourage you to make mistakes and to try to figure out what did I do there and why,
Yep.
what happened. Like, for example, I painted a reaver recently for Goblin's Hut, the Dirty Down Rust. It's a big giant reaver. It has this whole arm ripped off. There's blood spurting out. I do a lot of masking. I use a lot of tape and stuff to do like the stripes, right? And so when I pulled the stripe up, it actually ripped all of the paint off down to the resin. And I immediately put it back. I was like, oh no. And I knew what I did wrong because I forgot to wash the resin, so it had the mold release. And it was perfectly painted. Like it was, so what do? I pulled it off again and it was still peeling. I put it down, I was like, oh no. So then I thought to myself, like, what am I gonna do? Okay, the paint is going to come off. There's nothing I can do. So I super glued, I pulled the paint off, I super glued and I pushed it back down and then I pulled the tape off. It was really bad. It was like all scratchy and crumbly. I was like, all right, well, I made a mistake. I need to fix it. I can use battle damage. Perfect. The problem, the challenge, the skill is how do you make something that was a mistake? How do you fix it but make it look like it wasn't ever a mistake? That's hard. That's really tough. And I had to really struggle and I had to really like think about that. But I got a commended notable award. Commended award. I got it like a pin. I didn't get a golden demon. I was like one step below golden demon for a model that had ripped half the paint off. So again, it's just knowing how to fix mistakes, not losing your mind, crying and redoing it. You know, sometimes you might have to redo it, but sometimes it's just try it again. What was that mistake? What did you learn? How can you adjust it for the next 25 models that you have, right?
Yeah, they're always the biggest moments, right? Where
yeah.
you'll have those.
I did a Age of Sigmar. I really like Nurgle stuff. I love weathering, so it should be no surprise, right? And so I did a Nurgle Maggotkin army. I did 120 plague bears. I base coated them, I highlighted them, I washed them. I did 120 at once, a batch paint. And that was too many. It broke my soul. I put it inside of a box and I haven't, that was like 4 years ago. I haven't opened the army. Like it broke me and I haven't gone back to it. So I learned 120 models is too many to batch paint at once. Maybe like 30, or for me, 30 maybe is better. Maybe for somebody else, it's 1 unit at a time. Do 10 Marines. Find that balance. Whatever you can do that keeps you engaged, that keeps you excited, that gives you that little dopamine. You're like, oh, I finished this unit. It looks great. You go play with it. Of course, it's going to die the first game it's painted. But you have to find those boundaries. You have to make those mistakes and then learn from them in the future so you hopefully don't repeat it again.
Yeah, I think that's it, is making it manageable. But let's talk a little bit about structure. Yeah. So you got a time frame. You said you've got to work it backwards, right? Yeah. Maybe you do a test model to go, right, these are the colors. I'm going to airbrush this, dry brush that, highlight here, pin wash here, whatever.
Yeah.
You get your test model done. Then it's a case of, now I need to do the whole army.
Yeah, yeah.
How does somebody, if they've got a really hectic, busy lifestyle, and everybody is busy, I don't see anybody now when I go, what have you been up to? Everybody goes, nothing.
Yeah, no.
Everybody's busy. They're busy doing something. You're given this thing called time and you fill it. Everybody does. So how do you help somebody ensure that they have enough time and enough motivation to complete the project by the deadline? What are some of your top tips?
So I'm busy also. I have a family. I have a full-time job. I'm a parent. I have a big dog who loves walks. Yeah. So I typically get about 2-3 hours of painting a day. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of plan. And I have the advantage that I've done it a lot, right? I've been painting for a long time. So I kind of know how long things take for me, but what I'll do is I'll plan out, okay, tonight I'm gonna have 2 hours, so I'm gonna get the base coating done on I'll do this step. And I try to plan my painting to get like one step done. So maybe I'm for an Imperial Night or a Chaos Night. Maybe I'm doing the stencils. Okay, so I laid the stencils out, I got that first coat of paint done. Great. Tomorrow I come back and I do the next coat of paint, whatever that second color is or whatever. Then I'll do the armor trim. Or maybe oils. I use a lot of oils on enamels. It's a product that I've fallen in love with that Again, I think for army painters, if they really started using them more, the Grimdark Villainy inks or the AK Interactive or the Ammo by MIG, right? They're such fast and accessible and easy products to use. But you have to learn how to use them. So you apply the oil wash, and then you need to let it dry. So you need half an hour, 45 minutes. So with my family, okay, I pick up the kids, I bring them home, I'll run downstairs, I'll do the oil wash, slather it. It looks like you destroyed it, but you didn't. Then I'll feed the kids, get them showered, they're off to bed. Now I've got about another hour and a half. So this hour and a half, then I'll come back and I'll use the mineral spirits and I'll clean it up. You can actually, like, unlike Nolan oil, which cures and dries and looks really splotchy, the oils will look like that too, but then you can take a Q-tip or a cotton swab and you can wipe it off with the mineral spirits. And it looks phenomenal. So I just adjust slightly, knowing that I need about 45 minutes for it to dry, feed the kids, get them dinner, come back, manipulate the oils, get the effect that I want. Then I'll let it sit until the next day, because you have to let it cure. And that cure time is a couple hours usually. Overnight is best. So then when I come back tomorrow, awesome. I already did the oil wash, what's my next step? So I just approach things kind of mathematically. I work for a math company, so it's no, but I kind of have that process oriented. And I think a lot of us, the competitive players, the Warhammer players, a lot of us are process oriented. Paint, base coat, shade, highlight, right? We all learned the Citadel paint method, base coat, shade, highlight. Start with this color, highlight with this color, highlight with this color. So learning those steps, working those steps in, you find that rhythm, you find that timing of, I can do these 3 steps, tomorrow I do these 3 steps, tomorrow I do these 3 steps. The trick is, and where you'll get better, learning what steps you don't need to do. Learning which steps you can skip. Learning which steps aren't as important.
And is there steps that you can come back to and revisit?
Absolutely. Or learning a way to do a step quicker and better. Dry brushing gets a lot of, like, in display painting, it gets a lot of poo-pooing, right? Because it's fast, it's easy. But like with army painting, like I still dry brush models all the time. It's learning how to apply it in a way that gets a good result, right?
I'm interested to know, how do you do a good dry brush? Because sometimes you do it and you end up with these like scratch marks all over your model, or it can look really chalky or like clunky, and you're looking at your brush and it's just like there's bits in it and you're like, what have I done?
Yeah. My first day working at GW, like 20 something years ago, I was real young. I was like 21, 22. And my boss tells me, he goes, hey, I want you to paint this piece of terrain. I'm like, all right, great. So I dry brush. It was done in like 3 minutes, like tops. And I give it to him and he's like, wow, that looks terrible. Prime it again and I'll teach you how to dry brush properly. And so what he taught me is, and I'm still good friends with him 30 years later, what he taught me is dusty, not streaky.
Say that again? Dusty,
not streaky. So you want a soft application. If you're brushing your model, there's lots of streaks, lots of lines. A, there's too much paint on it, or B, you're pushing too hard, right? Another great mentor is Byron from Artist Opus, right? He has that little pad. So that getting your brush a little bit moist, right? Not like dripping saturated, but a wet paint dries on dry things, right? If you have a dry brush, where's the paint going to dry?
On the brush.
So don't use a dry brush.
A moist. We should be moist brushing then.
You should be moist brushing them, exactly. So there's little steps like that, little adjustments that make the painting 10 times better, right? So again, shout out to Shad Keating, one of my good friends, teaching me dusty, not streaky, and then also just learning those. I mean, again, I think out of like everybody here and everybody watching, like out of like let's say the 10 steps of painting something, you probably have like 7 or 8 of them down. It's just those little minute 1 or 2 steps, little adjustments, coming to a class, learning about a new product, those little adjustments pop it out, and then all of a sudden you do have something closer to what you're seeing on Instagram. You do have something that's closer to that goal, right? Edge highlights aren't really that hard once you know the tricks of how to do them.
What are the tricks?
All right, so you have a brush, your paintbrush. This is the thinnest your paintbrush gets. How do you paint a line that's thinner than this?
I don't know, tell me.
I don't know how to do it with 2, I need 2 hands. So you've got your brush. This is the first color that you do. You paint a white stripe. Then you grab your base coat, let's say black, and you paint over. So that white line, you paint over with black, and it's now thinner because you painted over it. And you've actually, I don't want to say erased, but you've painted over. Do you see what I'm saying? So you can paint really, really thin lines by just painting over with your base coat. So your edge highlight.
So you don't need to be accurate necessarily.
No.
Because what you can do is work away, right?
Correct.
And then it can get messy because it's going to blend in.
Correct.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Or another good one is edge highlights, right? Like really hard to do, like a plasma gun, right? And like how many of you have tried to paint the plasma gun? You're trying to paint that like perfectly straight line. Don't do that. That's impossible. Because if you like deviate in even the slightest bit, you got this wonky line that goes all over everywhere. So what do? You turn the model sideways. Here, I need your help again. I'm sorry. All right, so you turn your model sideways. If I'm going to do an edge highlight here, I'm not going to paint it straight on. I'm going to turn it sideways, and I'm going to use the side of my brush to paint it this way. Because the side of my brush is easy to control, right? I can paint those little nubs. I can just do one by one sideways. I don't have to go in perfectly straight to paint them. So it's super easy to do a plasma gun or a power sword or to get a really nice straight line because I'm not painting it straight. I'm using the side of the brush.
So you kind of want to work in like 90-degree angles.
Yeah, 45 degree, 90 degree. You work opposite. You're not going to paint straight in. You're going to paint from the side. Take a class. You should take a class with me. It'd be a lot of fun. Like,
I would.
There's a lot of really, again, it's like stupid people tricks. It's like little tiny silly things.
Yeah.
That are real. And once somebody points it out to you, you're like, oh my god, that is, yeah. Oh, that totally makes sense.
All right. So, anybody else want to know what's Dan's steps for painting an Imperial Knight? Because I want to know. Anybody else want to know?
You do.
There we go. Step one, it's built. How much of it did we build in one go? Did we do it all? Did we do some of it?
All right, so one of my pet peeves, especially for knights, is like mold lines and seams drive me insane. So I do actually spend a lot of time building them, filling in those gaps. The sprue goo, have you ever heard of that? Have you guys heard of that? So you take like the extra thin plastic glue and you cut up the sprue and you dip it in there and it creates this like plastic. So you use that to like fill in the gaps. So step one, no gaps, no seams, none of that. You're better than that. We can, right? And then in terms of painting a knight, so I do, again, think about the project. I know that there's armor. I know that there's a skeleton and there's weapons, right? But what's the biggest thing? What's the biggest thing on an Imperial Knight?
Well, skeleton.
Skeleton's really big, yeah. The skeleton, and then the second biggest thing is
the panels.
The panels. So leave the panels off. Paint the skeleton, put the panels back on, or paint them separately, right? A lot of people will do like talking about a Space Marine. Like, what's the biggest thing on a Space Marine?
Well, the armor.
The armor. Usually people will say, oh, it's the gun. Oh, it's the shoulder pads. Oh, it's the head. No, it's the armor. It is literally all armor. So paint the armor first. Paint the biggest thing, the biggest color, to completion. Base coat, shade, highlight. A lot of people sometimes will do like base coat this part of the model, base coat the next step, and that loses time. Like if you're going to paint like a Dan model, right? I don't have that big of an ego, but don't do the lanyard first. Do the shirt, and then do the outer layers. So same thing with the knight. So we're going to build it. We'll have the pieces separate that will need to be painted separately. And then I don't think it's a trick, but a lot of people are able to make mental pictures, right? Like close your eyes, imagine you're on a beach. Have you ever seen those painters that will like paint one leg? Flame On is a good example. Paints one leg and it is like most perfectly highlighted. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to form those. My mind doesn't work like that. I can't form mental pictures. So what I'll do is I'll actually get a picture of a Space Marine or a picture of an Imperial Knight, and I'll get my kids coloring pencils, and I'll actually color with the coloring pencils to plan out this knight is going to have chevrons going this way. It's going to have a quartered scheme. It's going to be these colors. And if I'm doing like 5 or 6 knights, I'll do a color drawing of all 5 knights to get an idea. How are they going to look like as a group? Because knights are special. You want them to, they're heraldry. They're barons and baroness. They're emperors inside of these things, right? So I want them to all look different, but also look cohesive. So I'll draw a picture to get an idea of, okay, this one has chevrons. This one doesn't have chevrons on its armor, but maybe one leg to tie it in. I'm going to use a key motif, or I'm going to use like a castle, like that's the heraldry symbol. So I plan that out. What will the big scheme look like? And then I start attacking each model individually. I already have the idea. I know where it's going. I know the colors I'm using. I've drawn myself a picture. I already have a roadmap of where I'm going. I've built the model. I've left the weapons off that I need to leave off. I've left, if I'm magnetizing it, great. I've already done that. It's already finished. So then I can just attack all the painting all at once, get it done as quick as possible.
So how do we do the skeleton? Simple tips for a beginner.
Don't spray it silver. don't spray it silver. I think again, if you're gonna like spray it in known oil, you're wasting a lot of time. I think dry brushing is fast.
So we go black?
I like black, yeah. Or if you're like a really old school painter, like the second edition folk, we always did brown, tin bits, lead belcher, and then mithril silver was it, I think? So yeah, using some off colors and then dry brushing up will give you so much more texture, so much more interest. It doesn't take much more time. I guarantee you, I could do a skeleton faster than like somebody who rattle cans it silver and then known oils.
Would you ever airbrush a skeleton? Or
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And airbrush that's a great point to bring up. I do a lot of airbrushing. Like there's a before airbrushing, Dan, and an after. I like the after much better because it's a fun tool. It's quick, you can get great effects. The problem with an airbrush, is it looks like you airbrushed it.
An airbrush is great. It's a tool in the toolbox.
Exactly.
But you shouldn't necessarily try and use it for everything.
Correct. You got it again. I was a teacher, so I teach my students. If you're going to learn how to write a paragraph, you need to know how sentences work, and then you can bend them. You can bend that paragraph. You can bend your story. You could do that thing with Memento, where you start at the end of the movie and then go forward. But in order to do so, you need to know how it works. So an airbrush is the same. Knowing how your airbrush works. What are the things it's really good at? It's fast. It's quick. You can get really good shades, right? What's the hard part? I'm not as good with a bristle brush. I can't get those nice smooth transitions, right?
Airbrush comes in nice, right?
Airbrush comes in nice. But if I make a mistake, how am I going to fix that? What am I going to do? So now I'm using a tool that gets a good effect. But if I can't replicate that effect without the airbrush, I need to be ultra careful not to make a mistake, and we all do. So how do you fix it, or how do you mitigate that mistake? And then just lean into those strengths, right? Like I have very much painted myself into a robot corner, and I love it. But then I have to like reteach myself painting skin, doing freehand, right? Doing purity seals, right? I need to like reteach myself so I don't forget those techniques too. So it's all about finding the tools that work, finding the way they work, and then using them to the best of their advantage, and then layering them on top of each other. I know dry brushing is good at this, go. I know airbrushing is good at this, go. I know oils and enamels are good at this, go. Use those things and then put it all together. And individually they may be, not super hard, but when you combine a lot of simple things together, you get a really nice advanced look that wasn't that hard, but you just need to know how to do it.
I love it. So I'm conscious of your time. Amy, do we have any comments or questions from the live chat? Any from the audience? Audience, we need some questions. Get those hands up. We'll bring you a microphone. Make sure you hold it really close to your mouth, like you're kissing it.
Hello? So, closer? All right, there we go. Hello.
Hi.
When you find yourself halfway through a project and you've lost motivation, how do you recapture that and get back on the horse?
When you've lost the finish?
When you've lost your motivation.
Your motivation, yeah. That's hard. That's really hard. Again, like I've had some really big projects. I did a Warlord, and that Warlord took like 5 months. Take a break. It's okay. Like just be honest with yourself, right? Acknowledge, yeah, this is a hard project. It's taken a long time. Sometimes people talk about palette cleansers, and they'll do like something in between projects, right? Like, hey, I painted a bunch of robots, and I'm going to paint something that's not. That's great. Whatever works. Like, maybe it could be playing a game, right? Like I've had commissions where I tell my client, I'm like, hey, look, I've just spent 4 months, 5 months, 6 months painting your models. I'm going to play a couple games of that. Is that cool? And they're like, absolutely, go for it. And I've taken them to tournaments. I lost the tournament, but I got best painted. So, like, so maybe it's just rewarding yourself in some way. Play with that unit that you just finished. Take that character out. Use him in a battle. He's probably going to get trounced because he's freshly painted, and that's the rule, right? But you got to play, and you can keep yourself motivated by finding those little fun things, right? Finding those little steps. For me, weathering is so cathartic. It's so fun that sometimes I'll like kind of I'll layer units. So like, okay, this unit is like the hard part that I don't like, but this one I got to the part I do like. So I'm going to skip ahead, do this part that I like, and then go back. And so I might jump between units. I use like one of the tricks I do is I use paper plates. So every knight is on a single paper plate. And I might have a paper plate that has a character on it. I'm like, cool, I did these plates, I did all the things, and I don't really want to do the next step, but I'm going to go over here, do the step I do like, kind of fun, kind of reinvigorating, and then I'll come back to it, right? Don't punish yourself. Give yourself that grace. It's hard, and sometimes we make mistakes, sometimes we get overwhelmed, and we needed to step away from it, especially if you made a big mistake, like when I peeled that paint off and the paint stripped off, like I needed to take a break for like 2 or 3 days, and I came back and I would look at it and be like, I'm not ready yet. I need another day. And then when I did come back, I had a plan. I knew what I was going to do. I had given myself that time to calm down, to relax, and to feel that energy to like, okay, now I can finish it.
I think that's great advice. I think sometimes when you batch paint, you get a bit caught up in the, got to do this, got to do that, let's get over this. Sometimes I just think, keep busy. So I'll be like, right, I'm getting a bit burnt out with this batch. I'll just clean up my hobby desk. I need to do this at some point. I'll do it now, change my water over, and then just keep paint moving. So I'll be like, I'm just going to finish this sergeant off. I'll take it all the way to the finish. Because it just helped me stay active painting for even 2 more hours than just me calling it a night. 2 more hours in, that's 1 model less to paint. But you just go, cool, he looks cool. Take a picture of it, show your friends, stick on an audiobook and go, cool, yeah, now let's do this character. And then go back to that batch when you know the next day you're fresh, you're painting, you tidied it up last night. So just keep busy, but you don't have to be busy doing the same thing. I think that's amazing advice.
I think that the social aspect things, like the pandemic was terrible. It sucked. It was no fun. But what was great was all the hobby chats that came out of that, where I was just hanging out with my friends 4 hours a night, just painting together. And that kept that motivation going. One of my buddies, Christian Smith, he just entered Golden Demon, and he did exceptionally well. He won a demon. And he even thanked me. He was like, dude, thank you so much. And I'm like, I didn't paint it. He's like, no, but we were painting together. And you kept me motivated. The conversation, hanging out with a friend, sharing pictures with my friends, talking about, hey, I've got an idea. What do you think about that? Getting the feedback, right? That motivation, that feedback, that social aspect can help drive you, keep you going, especially if you're feeling frustrated, if you get to a part where you're like, oh, I don't know what to do next.
Well, that's kind of the wonderful thing about these type of conventions, right? Come to a class, meet somebody that you might not have ever met before. All of a sudden, you're sat next to them, they go, oh, how'd you do that? Oh, well, actually, I just do it like this. And you kind of build up those relationships really quickly, and all of a sudden, you just become best friends with everybody, right?
Yeah.
And that is what's so great about Nova, Adepticon, the LVO, all these places. They share that where, come and be social with your hobby. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Painting doesn't have to be an individual thing.
No, not at all.
It can be a social.
Yeah.
So, but that's a great question.
There is too. There's definitely there's groups, right? It's very easy to look at okay, there's this tournament, this tournament, this tournament. Like maybe, I don't know if those crowds interact as much, right? If you're playing Star Wars Armada or 40K or AOS or whatever. But there's a painting community as well. And they don't have to be exclusive because every one of these tournament players has a painted army. And they can come you don't need to take a full day of classes, but take a couple quick introduction classes, find a technique that you like and try that. One suggestion too, I think, in painting, whenever I paint a model, I always try something new. But I only try one new thing. So if I'm painting a new knight, maybe I'm trying a new product, Dirty Down Rust, or I'm trying Grimdark Villainy inks, whatever it is. There's one product I'm trying. And every other step is the same. And then the next 3 that I paint, because I always batch paint in 3s for whatever reason, maybe I do a different type of weathering, chipping. I try chipping differently, or I try scratching. I try a different technique for that. So that way I can see a consistent result of, I know all these constants, I know how those things work, and then here's the one thing that I try differently. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't, but I've tried something new that I can either integrate into new models, or maybe I get better with those other steps, and I learned which steps really didn't matter to begin with. I didn't need to put so much time into this because I'm going to paint over it 4 times. I didn't need to worry about that detail. Or chip it off. Yeah, I'm just going to cut it right off. You don't need purity seals anyways. None of the, even Chaos Knights. There's parts on Chaos Knights where I'm like, no, absolutely not.
You don't need those birds stuck to the top?
No, thank you. I'm just going to do a little bone, and that is so much quicker. No, I'm not going to paint all those birds. That is literally an extra model on top of the model that you're already painting. You added 4 birds? Congratulations. I should charge you 5 times as much for that commission because it's 5 models. The Heresy, the back banners for Heresy, they're amazing. That's also an entirely another model on top of the model you're painting, right? So just think about those things that you're doing, focus on what matters, do those things, and enjoy and have fun with it.
I love it. Any more questions? Any more questions? No? Yeah. Well, Dan, one last thing. What are your thoughts of the new venue of the LVO, and what does the LVO mean to you?
It's fun. It's fun. There's definitely, this is a new venue, a new time of the year. So there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of changes with it, which is exciting to see. There's always hiccups. There's always like weird things like, ooh, it's in a different month. It's fine. Like there's a lot of potential here. There's a big event. It's fun. There's a lot of community, right? So talking to the painters, talking to the vendors. Once you go to events, you have these like con friends that like in real life, in your daily life, you don't see them, but here it's like you give each other a hug and you're there. And there's definitely that community here. There's that community of painters. There's a community of gamers. I'm really excited to see where they take it, where they grow with it. Like this venue is massive. There's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room for them to expand in. The hobby, like it's on the 12th floor. So there's 11 other floors that they can fill with other stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it.
I love it. Well, Dan, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's been a pleasure hanging out as always.
Thank you.
Thank you for being one of my guests. And I'm going to be back here at 4:30, and I'm going to be interviewing Jake, who is one of the CEOs of Frontline Gaming. We're going to be talking about the Las Vegas Open and the humble beginnings and what's changed, what's new, what's coming up for Frontline, and what you can expect for Warhammer events in the future. But Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to the audience.